Hello everybody, the Hosk here, and we are going to do another video today. Today we're going to do CRM 2013 MB2 703, Business Units and Security Roles. In this video we will be covering security terminology, business units, a bit of discussion on those, business units equals tree structure, disabling business units, deleting business units, security roles, default security roles, modify, don't create security roles, system administrator is a special security role, and then we'll have a look at security role privileges and security access levels. I'll be doing a bit of talking and a bit of showing and telling, as I expect you to also do. Basically what we're going to do here is just go through security roles and business units, get an idea of where they are in CRM, and discuss a few of the nuances which are particularly sort of useful when considering the exam. I will have a blog post put up at some point, so you better look at that if you need to read the information again. Security roles in CRM are kind of a mixture of being simple and sort of obvious, but complex when you add them all together. There are kind of few parts to the security roles. You've got business units and security roles, and sort of together they kind of work together to create a hierarchy, and then kind of access levels and privileges. And they're fairly sort of simple, but you can get in a real pickle with them if you haven't set them up correctly. Now hopefully I'm going to kind of whiz through these quite quickly. I mean, it does add, security roles is for 15%, 10 to 15% of the exam, so you need to know about them. They'll definitely be in the test, so you will need to know this in detail. The best way to learn about security roles is to really get in there, get in your CRM trial, and start adding business units, adding security roles, deleting, modifying, just doing anything you can really. So kind of have a look first, add them in, add business units, add security roles, and then start renaming them and deleting them and seeing what you can do, what you can't do, learning that way. And also I will discuss some of how they are sort of set up and some of the things you have to watch out for, particularly in terms of the exam. They're always sort of tricky security questions, trying to sort of catch you out to see if you understand how it all works. To help me out explain security roles to you, there are about 3 blogs which I've found really useful, and I will definitely be using those today, because I don't need to write. They're so good I don't need to write them again. I have written some stuff, and I will go through some stuff, kind of the basics of business units, which I haven't really seen anywhere on the internet. So the first kind of thing we'll go over are the understanding the sort of definitions in CRM, and I borrowed this from this great Power Objects blog on business units. It basically defines what they are. So business unit is a scoping mechanism that defines a grouping of users for security roles and modeling purposes. Business units are hierarchical units in nature. They are the framework on which the security model is built. So that's true really. Business units are the kind of foundation of your security, and then above that you have security roles, and these are kind of sort of show roles in the organization. So things like salesman. We'll go through and we'll have a look at the default security roles. In fact, let's just go in there straight away. So here's my CRM trial, still going, and security roles and business units are in the administration, which is here. So you've got here, you've got business units, and then you've got users, and you've got security roles. So they're all in your administration. Also, I mean, I will be covering later, but not in this episode, teams and field level security. This is all also part of security, but today I'm just focusing on business units and security roles. So I was just talking about security roles. So we've got a business unit, and then security roles are basically kind of user roles or groupings of users inside your organization. So you've got like, well, system administrator, scheduler. They're very American, don't seem really obvious to me. Marketing, sales, CEO. They seem very unrealistic, really. But these are your default ones, and there are 15 default ones. I've also got a sneaky easy navigator role stuck in there from one of my solutions. But these are the default ones, and they're all in the root business unit. So we'll go back to our, and then within each security role, you have kind of privileges and you have access level. And these are linked to, privileges are kind of an entity-based role, and you have, for each entity, you have these particular, so you can either create, read, write, delete, append to, assign and share. For each entity, you'll have these privileges available, and then you'll also have an access level, and these are linked to your business units, and the access level shows what you can see, what records you can actually see, and the privileges, they focus on what you can actually do to those, whether it's just read or create. So business units, access levels control what you see, privileges control what you can do. So let's go to our business unit. So we'll go to business unit. This is where it all starts. So if you were creating some security for a new organization, you'd start here with your business unit. And first you also have a default business unit, and this is called the root business unit. And this is created when you create a CRM organization. This root business unit is created automatically, and it usually has the same name as the organization. You can rename it, so I'll create another one, but you can see the root business unit has no parent. The root business unit is different from the other business units because you cannot delete it, you cannot disable it, and you cannot give it a parent business unit. So this basically sticks at the top of your hierarchical structure, and you can't do it. But you can change the name, so I've changed it to root business unit. You can change that and save it, and there's no problems about that. And you can see, when you click there, you can see what users are assigned to the the root business unit, and what teams and what other resources. Interesting to note that facilities and resources, if you wanted to get rid of a business unit, having values in here do not stop you doing that, getting rid of it. So just to recap, so a definite kind of test question will be about your root business unit. So you know it's created by default, you cannot disable it, you cannot delete it. So as we're in our trial, we can be fearless in things like this, and it says you try and disable it, it says it has been detected that this operation would deactivate all remaining business units and you cannot proceed. Because the reason for that is when you disable a parent business unit, it will also disable all the business units below it. So you have to be very careful when you're doing that. So business units are kind of structured in a tree-like formation. So you have the roots at the top, and then you'll have the branches going down. From what I've seen in my experience, they're usually done by kind of geographical. So you may have, UK, Finland, USA, etc. Or they're done by kind of departmental, as in like sales manager, marketing, the kind of roles of your organization. So if you were to create a new one, you'd kind of map this out and decide the best way you want to split up your business units in terms of security, because what usually happens is one set of users in one business unit can't see or edit or some kind of security kind of ramification of other business units. So you might have different business units and you don't allow them to see each other's data, or you allow them to see it but not edit it. And that's how you use business units to kind of structure your company, your security levels there. So in the blog, I'll have a couple of examples. So this is geographical. You've got your root business at the top. You call that your company name. Probably I've just called it root, so it's obvious. And here you kind of got UK, and below that you've got Birmingham, which is like regions in England. It's a city. And you could have many more, like London, Liverpool, etc. And then Finland, USA, Texas. And you could structure it so that each business unit couldn't see the data, or could read the data but not edit the data, sort of owned by other business units. You could also structure it like this, kind of departmental, sales manager, and then your salespeople, or marketing. You might have these might be different than just marketing. They're obviously simple, just to kind of get the understanding of how you could use business units to structure your security. I've just mentioned those two examples. You could actually do anything you want. You could. There's no sort of rule about this, but that's just the kind of way I've seen it done. So let's go in and create a new. So I've created IT. I've gone for that kind of structure of departmental. So we'll now do sales managers there, and the parent. So this is where you decide your tree structure. You can't see it in CRM, so you have to sort of imagine. You have to look at the parent business unit to see what levels you've got here. So I've got sales manager, and that's the parent is the root business unit. I could have accounts. Oh. And marketing. So you can see here that's the parent, the top of the tree. It's our root one, the special one that you can't actually give a parent, and you've got the sales manager business unit. And so you can just see here what you've got. So if you wanted to change the parent, move it across, you can't do it there. That's always disabled. You have to change parent here. And the reason that's sort of not easy is because it has sort of ramification. It changes the security sort of role, or the kind of level of security that this will be given, because you're moving. It's a fundamental. Not only does it change the business unit, but all the users created and all the records created in that business unit will also move across with it. So it's not something you do on a whim. So I could, if I change it here, sales managers could be under accounts. So that would be moving all the records, all the security roles, and everything associated with that business unit. So you can see the layout here. You've got sales managers under accounts. So you can also change the business unit there. So this is how you create your structure. So you can see here that it's not the easiest to sort of work out, especially with a lot. So you have to really, what you'd have to do is draw a map or log it out, draw a map outside of CRM and then put it in here. So some of the test questions will probably be like, you know, what can you do with what you can and what can't you do with business units? And they'll sort of ask you questions like, you know, can you delete a business unit? Which business units can you delete? Do you have to disable them first? Can you rename them? And this is the kind of questions they'll test you. So, can you rename it? Yes, without any problem really. So we've got IT. So let's just go through disabling a business unit. So you do that and it'll ask you a question then. When you deactivate this business unit, all the child business units will be deactivated and all the users in that business unit and the child business unit will be deactivated, and what's more, none of these users will be able to log into CRM and access the data. So, you know, deactivating is a big step. So now, because our view only shows inactive, active business unit, we're down to 3. So and you can only delete business units once they're disabled. See, so we've enabled that, but so you can enable child business units without enabling the parent, which is interesting. I didn't really know you could do that. So we can see there that you have to disable a business unit before you can delete it. So it tells you here, the action will delete the selected business units and all the records owned by the business unit. This action will delete the selected business unit and all the records owned by the business units except for users, teams and child business units. Before business can be deleted, it must have no users, no teams, no child business units. So they're kind of like required components almost, that if you try and delete this, it will tell you that you can't do this unless you've basically cleared out everything. And you probably wouldn't delete the ones below it, you'd move them or deactivate them, change the parent. You could change the parent to a different one so that you could it would have nothing linked on this and nothing stopping you deleting it. So once again we've tried, you can't root business unit, you can't delete or disable it because it always exists. But you can rename it now. That used to be a constraint where you couldn't rename it in previous versions of CRM. Best practices regarding deleting is Microsoft don't recommend you delete the business unit, that you only disable it. And this is, like all things, if you disable a business unit, you can then enable it later. If you delete a business unit, it's gone and you can never recover it. So really, you might as well just disable it, because there's not much difference. I mean, unless it's a low down one, you're not worried about it, but there's no real advantage of deleting it when you can just disable it, really. Okay, so that's our quick run through of business units. Let's now go to security roles. This is the next kind of, this is probably something you're more familiar with. And this basically is the kind of fundamental part of the security in CRM. So security roles are kind of easier to understand, I think, because you can visualize the kind of the roles that you experience in your kind of your general businesses, and they're sort of to accounts and sales and marketing, etc. Business units are kind of more hierarchical, and in some ways are kind of a bit more of a question of how you often split up your organization in terms of business units, but they work together to form basically what users can see and do. So if we have a look at salesperson, a nice generic one we can all recognize. So security roles basically link with business units. Each business unit has its own set of security roles, and the security roles, when linked with business units, show what records you can see and what records you can modify. Access and privilege, once again. So security roles of a user will be linked to what business unit they are in. That's a kind of fundamental level of control. Should also mention that security roles can be assigned to teams now. So even though a user can have certain security roles, if they're in a team with more security roles, it'll always security roles are like additive. It'll always have the highest level of security that you've given to it. So you have to kind of look out for teams upping the security level of users. So here you can see this is our access at the bottom. So you've got none, and they're little bits of pie, I would say. What? None, user, business unit, parent, organization. So user means you can only access none means you can only access nothing. User is you can access records you own, that your user is the owner of, and you can't basically do anything else other than those ones. Business unit are all the records that are owned by other users in your business unit. Now that's quite a big jump from user to business unit, because you're going from just the ones you own to everyone in your business unit. Then you've got parent business unit. This level, if you've got a complex, a lot of tiers, a lot of branches in your security setup, then this is important, because you're sort of leaping up above the parent-child business units. So this basically works that if you are a business, it works downwards, so you can access any child business units. So any business units below your current business unit, you'll be able to see and access. Organization is just everything. You can see it all. And so you can see the way this works here. You got these levels at the top here show entities. So they're basically core, the default ones. You'll have custom are the ones that you've made. So I've got test there. And you should add, whenever you add a new entity, the default is to have none, no security access at all. So you always have to remember to go in and set those up. So I've got my host test also hasn't been set. If you click on the left, it moves it up the kind of part here, moves it up all of the blobs along. So here are, so you've got access levels here. This is the different access levels, and then here you've got the privileges. So you can see that our privileges: create, read, write, delete, append, append to, assign, and share. And then they're for each entity. So you've got account. So for salespeople, the salesperson role can create only is set to user. So any records, only accounts that he owns, he can sort of create. He can read all of them in an organizational level, and he can write. So he can edit any account data, but he can only create ones, and then he'll own those. He can only delete the ones he's created himself, and then append and append to and assign and share. He can share any of them. And so you can see here, this is basically how security level works. They'll have a business unit, and then these levels are set to that business unit. This is account, so it's entity based. So you can come see how this works. So kind of business unit shows what you can see. You can usually only see records in your business unit. And like here, you can only delete is often set to records that you've created or you own or you've been assigned to. And read, often you can read a lot of all records, but you can't actually do much with them, only apart from the ones that you own. These also down here have often been sort of called none. User is often can be referred to as basic. Business unit is like local. Parent-child is deep, and then organization global. It's kind of another way to understand how they work. And so to change these security roles, you can click on them individually and up them like that, or you can click on the left here and it moves all of them up or down. But what we do know is that there is a lot of entities and 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 access levels. 8 privileges and kind of 5 access levels for each one. And so if you consider how many you've got here, there is a lot. Okay, other things we need to realize about security roles is that they copy down. So if you add a new one, I haven't saved it. So if you add a new one, it copies down to all the business units below it. And so if you were to add one in a step down, so we've got root at the top and then IT. If you add one into IT, it would copy all the ones below that, but not above. So this is kind of odd in a way that it doesn't go up, but also only security roles in the root business unit can be added to solutions. So if you add any security roles below the root business unit, you can't export them out, and they're basically kind of trapped. So that's not a good idea. And you need to remember that any security roles you add in the business unit will copy down to all the business units below. So if you add it to the brute, it'll copy to all of them below that. If you added it to, in our example, IT, it'll only copy to IT and CRM dev role. Another thing to remember is that users can only be assigned security roles in their own business units. Now, they're usually the same, but you can also modify security roles, I think, at a business unit level, so they could be different. So if you were going to create a new security role, if you create new, you've got a lot of work to do, because you've got to set up all of these for every single entity, and it's going to take a long time to go through and decide what level you want from all of these. So the best way to do this really is to copy. So if you click on a security role, we'll click on our trusty salesman and then copy role, this is a lot easier because basically we've set up a level of security, a kind of starting point, and so what you usually do is you find the security role which is nearest to the new one you want in terms of privileges, and then you create that and then modify it from there. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save me a lot of time if I didn't want them to have any activity feed. It's easier for me to just change that one and then leave the rest the same, rather than go in and add all these, the security level I want for all these other particular ones. This does of course mean that you do need to go in and change them if you do want the security level a lot different from the default role, but this is the quicker way. And so I think the CRM 2011 exam there was a question similar to that. So they do like questions on a sort of efficiency and using CRM quickly, so this could easily, type of question could pop up on the exam. So I'll just save my new security role. Right, so things to consider about security roles. There is also the all-powerful system administrator. He is a power user, but also his security role is special. It doesn't work the same as the other ones. Basically, you can't edit it, you can't modify it, and it works in a way that whenever you add any new custom entities, it will automatically give it all the privileges for that entity. It has privileges for everything. Now, if you were to copy the system administrator role, it would create a role with all the same privileges, but it wouldn't have the kind of special secret sauce of automatically adding itself privileges to any new entity created. So you create a snapshot, a copy of what it is now, but any changes you add to the system, that new security role won't be the same as the system administrator. Also, there always has to be one system administrator. You can't, if my user is a system administrator, if I try to remove that role from me and I'm the last person to have it, it will stop me. It won't let you do that. I could create another user and give him the system admin role and then remove that role from my current role, and that would be fine because there is still one existing. There always has to be one system administrator. It's also important to realize who that is, because I've seen some instances where the system administrator then left the company and it's been a bit tricky. because we want that user. By default, the user that was used to install the CRM instance initially will have the system administrator role. Okay, the other thing I want to mention about security roles is there is another type. So you have entities usually have all these privileges, but there's also the miscellaneous privileges, which are basically on or off. There's no owner to these. There's no levels of sort of business unit. There is just on and there's off, and that is it. And these particular roles are often quite different. They're like bulk delete, audit history, export to Excel. They're sort of usually kind of unusual-ish type privileges, but they can be hiding there. They're quite odd sometimes. You don't realise that you need to give these privileges, like exporting or importing solutions, or kind of things like that, or going offline. There's kind of sneaky sync to Outlook used for tablets. There comes some sneaky ones here with sort of powerful kind of security roles that enable or disable business units. So you wouldn't think of to look for. So they're quite cheeky, those ones. Right, so that is our quick look at business units and security roles. Just a quick kind of look at the system, trying to understand how they work, and in particular kind of ramifications of business units and security roles with regards to the MB2 703 customization and configuration exam. Right, the next one will be about Teams and what is it? Field level security, Teams, and sharing and things like that. Right, I hope you found that useful. We're progressing towards the exam. Please don't forget to check out the other videos. There's not just the exam MB2 703 exam ones. There's also kind of development ones. We've got errors. We've got plugin reviews. We've got plugin code examples, and in the future there will be other things such as JavaScript and lots of other stuff coming, so stay tuned.